Good morning. Welcome to my Maker Monday series. Today I'm going to tell you all about how I got started in belt making. In case you don't know who I am, my name is Jan Hibbard and my business is Log Cabin Leather by Jan, and I got started way back in 1977. So today I'm going to again share the stories of how I got started with belt making. Belts are my signature line. They've always been my best-selling products for the last 43 years. So I'm going to start at the beginning, how I got started with leather work to begin with, and then belt making in particular. It all started back in 1977 when I was a college student in Boston, and I purchased this book. Again, I was studying to be a teacher. I lived downtown with my sister. We had an apartment. I used to take my bicycle to work, so we took the subway to Barnes & Noble's when it opened in downtown Boston. I always went to the craft section. I bought this book for $2, and it mentioned several other companies in the back of it that were in South Station, Boston. That was really, it was, almost walking distance, just another subway stop away from downtown Boston, or not far in any event. So I purchased that book. The next day I took the subway to South Station, and I went to Siegel Leather Company, which is one of the companies in this book. And I knew how to sew from home ec in school. That's the only, I'm self-taught completely. So everything I know about leather is I'm self-taught. And again, I'm Jan Hibbard, and the name of my business is Log Cabin Leather, and we are here in the basement of my log cabin home, which is where I make all my products. Back then, it was not the case because I was in college. I bought the book, or went to the leather company, the Siegel Company. It was Jeff Siegel. He was the owner of the company. He actually sold me my first hide of leather, my first leather mallet, which I don't have anymore, a pair of scissors, the tools for sewing leather. This was going to be hand sewn, so needle and thread, but also for leather you have to punch the holes in before you sew it. It's different than cloth. It's much heavier. You punch the holes first, you glue it. So glue, the tools for punching the holes. That's a whole different aspect of leather work. And so that will be a story for another day. Right now, again, I'm really going to talk about belt making. So the other company that was on that street was called Berman Leather. And I went there, and later, after a bit, they really became my supplier for belt leather. And a lot of my leathers to start with right then. Right now I'm going to tell you about the different types of leather, because there are many, many different types of leather, and they all have different purposes. So if you followed any of my stuff on Facebook, I have something going on Tuesdays called Tool Trivia, where I have a different tool posted. This was a tool I had last week, so I'm going to show you what that is today. This is a tool I will have tomorrow. And again, this is what's called a thickness gauge. Leather is very different when you purchase it than like cloth or something like that. It is sold in pieces, but the pieces you cannot necessarily select the size. They're pre-selected, they're cut into different sizes, and they're sold in different pieces. So leather, how you buy different size pieces. This being the whole hide, this being almost the whole hide is called the double back. This being half of well, this is the half piece here. This is called the shoulder. This is called the bend. This is the belly, which I don't see what anybody would really want that for. And it comes in all different thicknesses. I don't know if you can see this little picture, but it's sold in thicknesses. So this is to tell how thick. If you had a hide and you weren't sure how thick it is, you put it into this, and it has little measurements on it, and how far the leather goes into it determines how thick it is. So this is 4 or 5 ounce leather, which is exactly what it says, and a lot of times it will say on the back when you buy it. And what's different about leather, again, they're hides. So all animals are different. Every hide is going to be a different size. So you're not going to know. Hi, Ben, how are you? So you're not going to know what size, it's going to vary. You can't say, I want X size. It varies. So it's so pounds. A lot of my jewelry, for example, is made out of a much thinner leather. But it's still, and the other thing I'm going to tell about is how it's the different types of leather. What I'm showing you now is called vegetable tanned leather. And again, this would be the belt leather, very thick dimensionally. So again, on the gauge, again, 9-10 ounce leather. So that's what my belts are made out of. I hope your belts worked out well for you, Evan. Hope you like them. So there's the different types of leather. Now the other thing is also the tannage. There's two different main types of tannage. There's vegetable tanned and there's chrome tanned. Vegetable tanned is what all my belts are made out of. It usually is natural in color like this. It's tanned with natural plant products. So mostly from oak trees. The tannin in acorns and oak bark is very potent, and that's been used by Indians even way back in time. Still used today. A lot of leather used to come from Texas, and the oak trees in Texas are called live oak trees. Instead of, we have black oak and white oak and red oak around here. They have live oak. So a lot of the leather is called live oak when you purchase it. So that's carving leather. Anything that has designs on it has to be vegetable tanned. It has to be able to absorb water. It's mold. You can mold it. It's pliable. You can do amazing things with it. The vest, on the other hand, is made out of chrome tanned leather. The advantage of this is so that it's more water repellent. It's, that makes it a little more durable that way. So again, different purposes. Upholstery leather, clothing leather, things like that are made out of the chrome tanned leather. When I do my books and things like that, again, the carving is on the oak tanned leather because it has to be. The chrome tanned leather will not accept the water. It's more waterproof. A lot of times it's treated with oils to make it softer and really buttery feeling, but it's not carvable. So that's why my covers always had two pieces of leather, because the chrome tanned leather is going to hold up. Again, this book was made in 1978, so this is now going on 42 years old. It will hold up. So again, you have the thickness, you have the tannage. So those are both things about how they're cut. So now I was back to the story of how purchasing my leather in Boston. So Seagull was the company that got me going on the vest. Berman was the company I started going to buy the belt leather. Now, way back then, again, I did purchase the double shoulders. Everything I purchased back then was the natural colored oak tan leather. All the belts I made originally, I hand dyed, whether they were plain belts or whether they were, some of my beautiful hand tooled belts, which is something I'll talk about next week on how I do the stamping process. My father was my inspiration really for my belts. He actually retired the year I started college. He was a editor and the publisher for Northeastern University, but computers started coming into play, and he didn't know anything about computers and that kind of thing. And so he kind of lost his job because he was, he was older by that time. He couldn't keep up with the technology and stuff, so he kind of was phased out. He was bored. He loved my leather stuff, and most of my products, again, if you've listened to me before, were created from my parents. As most people, when you start, you make products to give to the people you know. So started out with my family. He loved my belts. Now, he really did not like the plain belts. So more about him will be coming next week, because he was the one who liked my tooled belts. What I'm wearing now is a belt that was my father's. This was probably made in 1978. He's gone now. I still wear the belt. I did not cut it because it is the length it was for him. But I do custom fit them when you buy them, so it wouldn't be that long when you purchase it. But in any event, so now what happened with the leather, I was buying it from Berman Leather, and a woman named Janet waited on me for many, many years that worked there, and then she moved up to New Hampshire, actually, to another company where I got a lot of my beautiful, like, pigskin and beautiful colored leathers. I went out for lunch with her a couple times, and things like that. I bought some leather from her company, and then a lot of companies closed a few years after that. The leather market changed significantly, and purchasing leather changed a lot. Computers made a big difference because, again, up until this point, I bought all my leather in person, and that was getting harder to do. Janet moved from the Berman company. It moved to another location, Then it was a Rob that worked there for many, many years, and I didn't even realize this for a long time, which I'll tell you something about that later. I always would go in there, and I always had a book like this, and it had my supplies listed in it. Anything I needed, I would have the stock number written down, things like that, what page it was from the catalog, the price. I'd have all that written in here. And Rob always told me he loved that because when I went into the store, he would take this and go back and pick out all my small supplies. And then as far as the belt leather, he would just have me go out back and pick the hides off right off the pallet because he knew I was going to buy a couple of them. And again, what's different about leather, which I didn't mention before, these are animal hides. Every single hide is different. Again, you buy them in pieces, but every animal is a different size, just like people. We're all different sizes. They all have a brand in them. So that's a problem when you buy the bigger pieces. They're going to have a brand mark in them, usually on the animal's butt. That's how a cow is branded. That shows on most leathers. They get scratches from barbed wire fences and things. That shows on the leather. So no hide is going to be the same. No hide is going to be perfect. The hides, again, but now I buy these double backs because, again, there's really very little waste on it. Here, of course, again, you can't cut a belt out of that. It's wasted, rubbery at the ends. Those I get the biggest cut of. I can make belts for very large people up to a 60-inch waist, which I do have customers that buy that because, again, the belts are the 9-10-ounce leather, so thick leather. They're one solid piece. That's what makes them different than a lot of other leather belts you buy in the store. My sister had a name brand belt. It said solid leather, or it said leather. The leather was thinner than this piece of pigskin, and this is so thin, and that gauge, it's too small, thin to even gauge it. That's the thinnest leather I know that you can buy, that I can buy. Her belt was thinner than that. It was thinner than a piece of paper, and then had cardboard, and then had the vinyl, sold as a leather belt. Mine are solid leather, so you don't have that issue. But what happened is, again, all the companies where I could buy it in person now were gone. Berman Leather moved into another location. And this, I didn't realize until then that the Rob that I had always dealt with at the store was actually Rob Berman. He was the owner of the company, had been waiting on me for like 20 years. But when they moved to this new location, he started being, again, really, he took over really the total management of the place. And so he just worked out back and was no longer out front. The business had grown or whatever. And so none of the people knew there. I didn't get the customer service I was used to. They would just bring me hides of leather. And again, sometimes they would just bring the first crappy thing that was on the shelf. And they vary greatly. And that's where the hardship is today because there are no leather companies around really that I can buy leather in person. There is still Tandy Leather. Tandy Leather I'll talk about. They're worldwide. I'll talk more about them next week because they're really where all my tools, all my books. Again, I'm self-taught, so most of what I taught myself was from things I bought from them. Now there's one in Chelmsford, Mass, so that's about an hour away from here. That's the closest I can go. But they've really changed the types of leather they have, and they're expensive. Because I'm a business, I can get wholesale prices. So now, and finding sources of leather took me a long time. Because again, you're buying sight unseen. I remember I make a beautiful hobby horse for a baby. Becky has one for her. My daughter has one for her baby. And I was trying to make a bubblegum pink one. It was actually for, I think, a baby gift for a friend of my daughter's. Ordered it, and when it came, it was like almost gray. Well, suede fades in the sun. It had sat out. Part of it had been exposed. Part of it had not. So it was different. It was horrible. It was horrible. It was like gray. It was not a pretty cute pink for a baby. I didn't want this color pink, but it was a lighter, softer baby pink, and well, it was supposed to be more like a bubblegum pink, but it wasn't anything like that. So it's very difficult. So it took me quite a few years to find sources of leather. Now I finally have found a source, which is Weaver Leather, which is in Ohio. And it's actually, the leather is tanned by the Amish. And I absolutely am in love with their vegetable tan leather, their belt leathers in general. I do buy the double backs, the big pieces. So they're very difficult for me to work with. I'm going to show cutting a hide on Wednesday and cutting belts and things like that. I don't think I have a full hide right now, but they're so big I can only unroll. They're over 6 feet long, and they're over 7 feet, or 6 feet wide, 7 feet long. So they're huge. So you can't even fit them in the room. But what this leather is absolutely amazing now, and I love it. It is so smooth. Now this is the front of the leather. This is the side you would put the design on, but this is the back of the leather. And it is absolutely smooth and beautiful, and I love it. And that is not the case of all leathers. I got a sample here. That again, the backs of some leather, again, well, you can see this one is kind of rougher in here, but some of it, the belt leather too, that I used a bit, was very, very rough. This is belt leather. And see how rough the back of it is? And especially dyeing it by hand, I would dye the backs of the belts too. That didn't, that was harder to get the color uniform and stuff without putting it on really heavy. These are so nice and smooth. It's absolutely amazing. It's almost hard to tell which side is which, especially with the pre-colored belts, which is pre-dyed belts. So now for my belts, because I make so many of them, and again, dyeing is something I'm going to talk about in 2 weeks from now, the coloring process, how I add the colors to the belts, things like that. Again, the tooling of the designs next week, adding the colors and things to the belt will be the following week. I was dyeing all my belts, even the solid color belts, by hand. That's very difficult because, again, this is an animal skin. It doesn't come out even. Dye, if you've ever worked with dye, one space and not enough in another, it comes out darker in one space. It was very hard to get the dye uniform. And also, again, if the leather has any scars in it at all, that's going to show up more. Or at least in the types of dye I used, which were called antique dyes, it showed up more. If you have a design stamped on it, again, a lot of times you can, it doesn't show up so much in that. But it's very difficult because especially if I spend all this time on a tooled belt and then you dye it and it comes out like crap. And that still happens when I'm doing, book covers and things like that. Is I go to dye the piece and it comes out horrible. Now, if I'm painting a scene, I don't, you don't dye it first. Again, that's a whole different day. But now I do buy these pre-dyed belt leathers from the same company, the Weaver Leather in Ohio, and they come in. This is called Weaver Leather, and it comes in like 5 different colors. So I buy that all pre-dyed, and again, the back of it is absolutely beautiful. So I love it. Now these are fairly stiff, and not everybody likes a real stiff felt. So the other leather I use is called bridal leather. It's a little bit softer. It's a little bit more pliable than this. This is a little bit stiffer. Again, the color doesn't go through the hide as much as it does on that leather. And this is still the vegetable tanned. It's vegetable tanned and then dyed. This leather is still vegetable dyed, but it has more oils in it, which makes it a little bit softer. So that comes into several colors. But again, I'm limited to the colors I can get. And again, it's an individual dye. So every hide, and again, the other thing is different hides have a different pigment to them. I don't know if that really shows. But again, they're different colors. It's skin. They're different shades. Different, again, these are bleached and stuff, but they come out differently because each animal's skin is different. So that's going to affect how it dyes. So again, that's the reason I buy them pre-dyed now, because now I do get the uniformity in the dye. And that's pretty much what I have to say today. If you want to keep informed on really what I'm doing and what topics I'm going to be discussing each week, you might want to get on my email list. Right at the header in my Facebook page, it should say join now. You can click that to join my email, or also just click anywhere on the header and it will take you to a page where you can join my email. On Monday, I have my newsletter that comes out that highlights all these activities I'm doing each week. So it will tell you everything that's going on. Monday is called Makers Monday, where I'm going to tell the stories behind my products. So this month actually is all about belt making. So this week it's, again, cutting the belts. Next week it's about putting the designs in the belt. It's the week after that. And this is for all aspects of these topics for the week. The week after that is about adding the color to the belts, and the weeks after that is the finishing touches and the other steps that I put into my belts that a lot of other belt makers don't, that make them a little bit better. On Tuesday, I have the game called Tool Trivia, where I post a tool. This was the tool last week, and again, you were supposed to guess what it was used for, so I hope people will play along like that. Please leave a comment, not just, liking and things like that help, but leaving comments help me grow more. So that was the one to guess next last week. This week, and then, all right, I'll get to that in a minute. And then this is my one that's going to be posted tomorrow. So if you've been listening to me today, that might be a clue on what that's all about. And again, I'll post that tomorrow. It's called Tool Trivia Tuesday, and I post a tool, and the idea is you're supposed to guess what the tool is, what it's called, what it's used for, and then later I'll give a little bit of an answer to that. If you want to find out more details on the answer, then you'll need to look at my blog, which will come out on Thursday. But on Wednesday, I have my Workshop Wednesday series, and that will be, again, another live presentation here where I'm going to go through cutting belts. Exactly the whole process. All my belts are hand cut. It is not done by a machine. Some people have a machine that they run them through. I do not. Everything I do is done by hand. My only two machines are a sewing machine now and the Skiver, which is something I use primarily for belts, and that will be in the last week. I'm not belt making this month. So again, Workshop Wednesday. That again, behind the scenes in my workshop, actually making the different projects. Again, same themes as I mentioned for the Maker Monday. It all follows the same theme for the week. So again, this week I'm cutting the belts. The Thursday, the blog will come out, and so it will have some of these videos playing again that if you didn't see them live or, things like that, you can watch them then. You can, comment and things like that, I think, if you want to. I'm going to try to put replays here on Facebook. I'm not pretty sure I know how to do that because I'm not really tech savvy. So that will come out on Thursday. Friday, I have Flashback Friday, where I'm going to show you some of these old original projects that I still have hanging around that have been around for over 40 years, or somewhere about that. So that will be all what I show on Flashback Friday, just some of my older projects and how, a little bit about them. And on Saturday, I have my Spotlight Saturday series where I'm actually going to show you some of the belts I'm making today and that kind of thing. So this week, again, I'm going to focus on the plain belts and what makes mine a little bit different than the other belts out on the market and things like that. So that will be the Spotlight Saturday series. So that basically highlights the week. Again, one more time, Newsletter Monday, Maker Monday, on Monday, Tool Trivia Tuesday, Workshop Wednesday, the blog on Thursday, Flashback Friday, and Spotlight Saturday. So those are my activities for the week. I hope you join me. Again, the Monday, the Wednesday, and the Saturday will be live. The other things will just be posts on Facebook. Please join me on Facebook. Again, leave comments because that really helps me more so than, it improves my reach more so than just a like does. So please consider that. Again, sign up for my email if you really want to know what's going on. You also, if you're on my email list, you get more about my sales. I will have a sale coming out this month. Most of my sales are opened up to my email list, not for the general public. I mean, Christmas and the holidays, yes, I have sales that are open to the general public. But if I do something like that, it's always open to the email subscribers first. They get in a day earlier than everybody else. Find out about when it's starting and things like that before I announce it to the general public. So that's the best way to stay informed on what I'm doing. Any questions or anything, you can always, leave comments. Please feel free to do that. I'd love if you'd share this video with others. I mean, I know they're probably boring. I'm working on it, guys. I'm trying to make them more interesting, so I hope you'll bear with me. And I appreciate anybody who has been following me. And thank you to all of you who are with me. Thank you very much. I think that's pretty much all I have to say for right now. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this series. If you did, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll talk to you hopefully on Wednesday. Thank you very much. Bye for now.